Welcome back, everybody, to another casual conversation. I'm your host, John Malanca, with Dr. Jordan Tishler, Dr. Adam Abodeely, and Dr. Sandra Carrillo. Great seeing you all, as always. Here's a topic that we're going to talk about, and we briefly discussed it maybe 2 years ago. It's called Ryan's Law. Ryan's Law is Senate Bill 311, and it's the Compassionate Access to Medical Cannabis in Healthcare Facilities Act. It's something that is kind of near and dear to me because of the father, Jim Bartell, is wrote this law, and it went through a lot, but it's for his son, Ryan. Ryan unfortunately passed away after 7 weeks of being diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. My wife had pancreatic cancer. I was blessed that we had 4 months. Talking with Jim, I could still, I still feel the pain that he and I both went through when our loved ones went through this. Uh, the case about Ryan's Law, why Jim wrote this law and submitted it to be a legal law, was having legal and safe access when a loved one's on their, I'll say, deathbed in a hospital. And Ryan was in a hospital that did not accept medical cannabis. He was in a drug stupor with fentanyl, morphine, et cetera, et cetera. And Jim, the father, was really fighting hard, saying, "Come on, we would like to try this. My son is on his uh, final days. He would like to spend some time with his wife Katie and their son, who had autism." And so they finally were able to find a hospital that allowed it. And so they moved Ryan, and I believe he had one last week with his son where his son was able to speak with him. The son was able to interact with not only his son, Ryan and his son, but also with his wife Katie. It is helping for families and patients. And Corinne's father in 2010 was diagnosed with stage 4 lung cancer metastasized to his brain. When he went into the hospital, we asked the doctors, and they said, "This is medicine, and it's helping him, and it's helped him so far. We'd like to continue it." The hospitals here in California that we worked with basically turned a blind eye and let us do it. Um, and so this is something that I truly believe, you know, like in hospice, you want to try anything, they'll allow you to have it. And now that this law has been passed, it is helping families, not only here in California but nationwide, have legal and safe access to cannabis, which is a medicine. And so, thank you for letting me be on the soapbox here, guys.
We here in Massachusetts don't have Ryan's Law.
Okay.
Passed something a while back that was called the Institutional Caregiver Protection Act, which was to enable healthcare facilities to essentially act as a protected dispensary so that they could then give patients these medications. And to my knowledge, not a single institution has signed up to do it. It's voluntary. So one of the things that was interesting about Ryan's Law is no longer voluntary, it's mandatory. And I have run into this left and right. I have, for example, a patient who is in a halfway house, and his mother lives on Martha's Vineyard, right? The halfway house is on the mainland. The halfway house won't give him his medicine, his cannabis medicine, so his mother has to take the ferry every day to give him at least one dose, if not two doses, right? I mean, that's nuts. Over the weekend, I was talking with a colleague in Ohio. She's in palliative care, and she says that all of her patients, when they go into a nursing home or again into a halfway home where she's supervising, they take them off the cannabis medicine. And then whatever was being treated goes backwards. And so we really do need to get Ryan's Law passed through the various states. And you said nationally, I think just to clarify, you don't mean federally, you mean across the nation, state by
Excuse,
state.
yeah, state by state, and not, we don't want this to be, turn your back, sneaky, sneaky, and get anybody in trouble. I know a lot of hospitals do get grants because of the federal funding. Can you add to that?
No, absolutely. The use of cannabis, the one thing that's, I don't think anybody can dispute at this time is that, cannabis, if nothing else, serves a very, it does have a purpose, particularly for end of life care. Even if it's just as a replacement for opioids, benzodiazepines, whatever the case may be. And I agree with you, in final stages of life and our journey here, we should be entitled to that, assuming it doesn't hurt anybody else. And but we do know that there's real validity for its use in medical, in those settings. And that's where I really gained an appreciation for it. Not as a cure-all, but as a very useful tool, not just in cancer, but in a variety of other diseases as well. But it has been an issue bringing to the hospital. There's no doubt. Now, I'm fortunate enough in a smaller hospital, we've been able to, to kind of make, give patients access, without having to jump through big hurdles that we might have experience at a larger institution. But it was a big problem in the beginning, particularly because now everybody that gets admitted to a hospital goes through a pharmacy reconciliation. And one of the things that several of the patients are admitting they're on is in medical cannabis, and the pharmacists have to cross-reference that and make sure there's no drug-drug interactions. And now they're faced with a medication now that is on that the patient claims they take, and they don't have it on formulary and they don't know much about it. And so their knee-jerk reflex has always been to say, no, it's just not allowed. Now in New York State, I understand the law has changed where now it is allowable if the hospitals undergo the policies and procedures in order to safely administer. And that's that onerous is on them, that responsibility is on them. I'm actually been working with the hospital for quite some time on this initiative. And now I'll tell you, one of the challenges that also is that we're facing right now when it comes to use in hospital is, as I mentioned, patients come in and they're on a medication, and this is a prescribed medication. It could be, Protonix, an antacid, 40 milligrams a day. And that's a prescription that came from a provider, that there is a formal prescription, and that prescription is also documented at the pharmacy. Now with cannabis, since we're not writing prescriptions, we're writing recommendations. Well, patients come in, claim they're taking all sorts of kind of things that are not standard dosings, that don't make sense. And also there's no way to know whether or not that medication that they claim they're taking is the actual dose that they're taking. And so now it becomes up to the doctor who's admitting the patient to make the recommendation, or to actually write the order that patient can receive their own home dose of cannabis. And now the pharmacists are all trying to figure out, well, what really is their home dose?
Yeah.
And so, this comes back to the whole, it comes back to, I think, bring us back to kind of a bigger discussion, a bigger issue is just, how we treat cannabis, as a medicine, and treating it as well, you take it whenever you want, however much you want, unfortunately is not the way medicines are prescribed. And this is the challenges that we face in the hospital. So, but I think that what is important is that, we do remain, we continue to be advocates for our patients. And if there are issues, the unfortunate thing with cancer patients is, number one, they tend to get admitted a lot to the hospital, particularly for a variety of reasons. And the second thing, unfortunate, is a lot of cancer patients do unfortunately pass away in the hospital. So the instances where they need access to their medicine the most, they might not be able, the times they might need it, they might not be able to access it. So the same way that I've always just been an advocate and, tried to develop good relationships with the pharmacy department and the hospitals that I work in is to make them understand that, I too am trying to do what's in the patient's best interest. And having them come in and substituting their cannabis for opioids and benzodiazepines is not in anybody's best interest. And I think if we continue to advocate for that, then we just have to make sure then that we can get a handle somehow on, making recommendations for usage and dosage while they're in the hospital. And of course, you add that other layer of complexity that if somebody's smoking, well, that's a whole nother issue. And people can't smoke within the hospital, and, getting patients that area. So working with them to say, well, is there an alternative, an oral option that they have? And if patients don't, then unfortunately, we don't have any other, we don't have any options for them to smoke on campus right now. And so, and of course, that's of course led to several patients, smoking in the bathrooms and using their vaporizers and all sorts of things, which, so, but again, the reality is that it is a medicine. We have to find a way to be able to safely administer it, in the hospital.
Well, I say regarding to what Adam says, I've been finding in my particular case, there is like a lack of education from the healthcare professionals, because when the patient is at the hospital and the patient come and say, listen, I would like to use in palliative care at the end of life, the families, they come and they say, well, I would like to give cannabis, because sometimes they don't even ask until they are already at the hospital. If you're lucky, the patient already started before get admitted to the hospital, so they already know what to do. And many times the family brings the medication without the doctor to know, but this is a problem. But when I always said, tell the doctor, tell the palliative care specialist, or tell the oncologist that you are taking this. But many times, and I had a particular case a few years ago that it was very sad. That when the palliative care doctor that was in charge of the ward of oncology of these terminal patients, it says, "Oh, you want to take cannabis? Okay, I'm not responsible for anything that happens to you, because I don't believe," says, "I don't believe that cannabis works, and it could have a lot of side effects. So if you start taking cannabis, I'm out of the picture, and I'm not gonna keep coming to finish the treatments." And I was just like, and so my idea in here is that we need to educate all those healthcare professionals that work at hospitals, like and when the patient is hospitalized, starting from the palliative care physicians, oncologists, nurses, because as Adam says, the nurses says, you cannot take this. I'm going to tell the doctor, if you do this, the hospital is not responsible if you have any complication. So it's a whole thing. And as Adam said, we advocate for the patient well-being, and more at the end of the life, that is the moment where we see so many benefits for the patient, and it is a right to die with dignity. And as he says, sadly, most of these patients, they die at the hospital. So not being able to provide them with access to medical cannabis is denying them this opportunity to die with dignity. But I think starting with education, that is what we do at ACS, is very important for all the healthcare professionals, because if the patients come with the prescription or with the recommendation, and the oncologist or the palliative care physician knows that this is a good alternative, will allow the patient to use it. So I think we have to start with the education all over the world, because this happens all over the world.
So true, so true. Um, I was going to add one thing about Adam and you working in hospitals. Yes, cannabis is not a one size fits all. You should look at drug to drug interaction, but the benefits of end of life, sleeping, appetite, pain relief, healing, and I'll even say mood. And if your loved one is still able to converse or is awake, I mean, the goal is not to keep on giving more and more and more so they sleep everything away and you can't have your last moments with your loved one. We're all different. Less is more. More is not always better. But anybody, and I know, as I say, when you run into situations, I'll say even Jordan in Massachusetts, what's your thought on Marinol? Having a patient ask about Marinol in situations like this if they cannot legally bring their raw cannabis into the hospital.
It's a very poor second. And basically, I think it's effective for staving off withdrawal in
Yeah.
patients using enough routinely that they might have withdrawal symptoms, but it doesn't really seem to have the positive benefits that we would expect from cannabis. So it's not really a good substitute.
Yeah. Yeah. The reason I say a lot of doctors, before all the laws started popping up in the benefits of having legal access here in America, a lot of doctors would say, get a prescription of Marinol and go down and get your legal CBD and make your concoctions that way, your formulations.
That
And
doesn't work.
yeah, yeah.
Oh,
But I'm just saying that that's the type
oh,
of stuff that people are doing. If you're in a state that does not have legal access in a hospital or end of life facility, research Senate Bill 311, also called Ryan's Law, the Compassionate Access to Medical Cannabis and Healthcare Facilities Act, for you, for your loved ones, or for your patients. Thanks. When you chose this topic today, Jordan, I was excited to bring it back to the forefront because, as Dr. Carrillo said, cancer is not only here in America, it's just something that's affecting all of us one way or another, from our loved ones, a colleague, a friend, etc. And so I hope one day they find I'll say a cure to this awful cell malfunction. And but proud to be here with you both. We had Dr. Adam Abodeely, who had to leave, but we're here with Dr. Carrillo, Sandra Carrillo, as well as Dr. Jordan Tishler. Always a pleasure. I'm your host, John Malanca, with the Association of Cannabinoid Specialists, and another episode of Casual Conversations. We'll see you then.